challenge. These I think are questions that you're probably facing every day. How to deal with disputes if they arise in the context of your company and their business. Generally, businesses, it's not the core function of what they do, and it's not necessarily the core function of what legal departments do. Really the idea is to try and generate money and not spend it. So obviously when a dispute does arise, the question is then, do we want to dedicate our resources, both our people and our money, in order to pursue them? And up here you can see some statistics. There's growing pressure on legal departments to do more, but with less cost. And I think that's a challenge that everybody faces, but particularly in the legal sector. And I think that's something that started off probably, from the global financial crisis in 2008, has continued, and then I think COVID has also helped to exacerbate those kinds of issues internally. Listed entities, we've also funded state-owned entities, really the whole range. We can assist governments. We do work for all different types of entities and companies. And then we do that in all different types of sectors. So, tourism, hospitality, financial companies, construction and infrastructure companies, all of these, joint venture partners in almost any kind of context you can think of, turn to us when they are looking for somebody to help them in this way. So, and it really is independent of whether or not they have the money to spend themselves. They're just looking for someone to help them share in the risk of proceeding with a case. And often we see, the strategy of a counterpart might simply be, I don't really care what happens in the proceedings because I'm going to retreat into my home country and you're not going to be able to find me, you're not going to be able to touch me, so, come and catch me, is effectively the strategy they take. So you can spend a lot of money but still face that problem at the end, even though you have an award or a judgment. So then this is really where we step in, and we can help on all of these different aspects to try and make pursuing a proceedings a less risky and less expensive process. So you can see working with someone like Omni Bridgeway. So we have our investment managers generally have a legal background, so we have all practiced, and we have expertise and insights about similar cases that we can bring and contribute to the team that's working on the case. And we also have particular experience working across the globe with other experts, it could be forensic accountants, particular quantum experts, and others. So we already have developed relationships, and we can help with those introductions and to bring the right team together if that's something that's helpful in that particular circumstance. And the last thing that we bring really is our enforcement expertise. As I said, winning the case is one thing, but actually bringing the money in is very different. And we have an in-house asset tracing and intelligence team who have been doing this for 35 years. So they have significant experience bringing in recoveries from counterparties in difficult jurisdictions, which is really helpful. So then, in what kinds of cases do we do this? We do this in all types of commercial cases. So really it can be a joint venture dispute, a simple breach of contract. It can be, obviously arbitrations, generally cross-border, but we can also just do domestic cases. And Sue will talk a little bit later about the particular regulatory environment here, but we are relatively comfortable that we could also do domestic proceedings. We also fund in the insolvency context, non-performing loans, asset recovery, really any type of commercial case you can think of, we can be involved with. And then types of funding that we can do, there are several different types. We can do single case funding, which is basically where we look at one case on its own. We also can fund portfolio of cases for companies, and that's where you might have 2 or more cases, and we basically look at them together. And the advantage of doing that is that we can do both claimant work and defence work, and we can price it together. Or in any event, because the risk is spread across more than one case, it can bring the price down of the share in the proceeds that we would ultimately recover. So we always like to look at portfolio of cases if we can. We also do something called an advance for working capital, and that simply is, as well as just financing the costs of the ongoing proceedings, we can also provide some additional finance simply to be used for business operations. So it's effectively recognising that there is value in the litigation asset, and we can then provide extra funds for the business, because we're essentially talking about a finance tool here. So they're the different types of finance that we can fund either all of the budget that's needed or part of it, depending on what the company would like. And then if the economics work, potentially also maybe some more for working capital. But we like there to be a ratio of at least 10 to 1 between what we're asked to fund and the claim value. So for a $70 million claim, we can fund up to around $7 million, for example. And that's the maximum. Somewhere around 5 or 6, is probably more comfortable. And that also includes, for recoveries as well, what we're going to pay for enforcement. The second thing that we look at is the prospects of success. So for that, we work with the legal team, and effectively we ask for them to give us their view on what are the claims that can be made, what are the likely defences that might be raised against them, and what are the chances of winning on those claims. And so effectively what we're looking for is just good prospects that the case will succeed. And then the last thing that we look at, and this is something that we look at every time we look at a case, is what are the prospects of recovering money at the end of the day. So we do a good look into the counterparty from as soon as we get involved to take a view of their asset position, what assets do they have, and very importantly, where are they? Because they might have a lot of assets, but if they're in a jurisdiction where it's going to be very difficult or very expensive to get them, then it might not be cost effective to go ahead, and we can help with that assessment. So that, in a quick nutshell, is what we do. So Omni Bridgeway has been funding for more than 35 years. Omni Bridgeway, as it is now, is a merger of two entities. One that is an Australian listed company that has been funding from Australia for the last 20 years, and another that was a privately held company in the Netherlands, which was formed more than 35 years ago. So there is a huge depth of knowledge and internal expertise that has been built up over that time. And for us here, I think particularly in Asia, Omni Bridgeway has been established since 2017, or 2016 actually, so more than 6 years now. We're the longest established funder with a dedicated presence in Asia. And we have now 8, but very soon we'll have 10 people based here on the ground. So we really understand the cultural and the jurisdictional nuances of working in different jurisdictions in this part of the world, and we fit seamlessly into our global network. And so we've got people based in 21 different locations around the world. So that's a really quick snapshot. I think that 86% success rate is something that's really important. And what that means is if you bring a case to us for funding and we go through our due diligence process and we then agree to fund it, it means that your case fits within the category of cases where we've decided to proceed, and in our prior cases we've then been successful 86% of the time. So you can just take confidence from that we do have a very good track record of investing in cases that then ultimately are successful. And by success we mean bringing money back, not just winning the judgment or the award.
Insurance company. Panelist number 6, Sui Chuan Wen. She is an international and a member of the International Disputes Practice Group at Kim and Shin.